The Zaporozhets, a tough-as-nails workhorse that inspires nostalgia for bygone days. The car that gave mobility to the masses is now a symbol of Ukraine's resistance.
I live in the country at war. If I'm pessimistic, I should, go and die.
Even James Bond struggled with its notorious technology.
You know that, yeah.
Frankly, it was one of the shittiest cars I've ever driven.
They were always the underdog, but inside this basic box is a lot of quite sophisticated engineering.
Despite, or perhaps because of, its Ukrainian underdog status, the Zapo has become both a cult car and a patriotic symbol.
It's just our passion. It's the first Ukrainian car. Just like the Volkswagen for Germans. It was the people's car.
Yes, it's identity.
When the Zaporozhets began rolling off the assembly line in 1958, Ukraine was part of the USSR, which reunited much of the fallen Russian Empire. The Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, yet Russian President Vladimir Putin still calls the Zaporozhets his favorite car.
Russia steals everything from us. I made a license plate that says "Made in Ukraine." The Zapo is a symbol of resistance.
I am Ukrainian, and this is my car. I am Ukrainian, and this is my church.
In Ukraine's fight for independence, cars like the Zaporozhets play a highly emotional role.
To put an end to the dying, we must finally win.
Right now we pay a very big price to be free and to be independent. But I mean, to strengthen our economy, we need automotive sector more developed.
Today, Irina Denis from the Ukrainian capital Kyiv is piloting her Zaporozhets through the streets of Hahnenbach, a village in the German state of Rhineland-Palatinate.
The Zapo builds bridges between Ukraine and Europe.
In 2007, Irina met German Zaporozhets enthusiast Bernd Hartmann. They fell in love and got married, and she moved to Germany so they could be together. I got to know Irina through the Zaporozhets. As founding members of a club in Germany, we've traveled around Ukraine with a variety of vehicles. The little B&B Irina runs in Hahnenbach is now permanently occupied by Ukrainian women who've fled the war. They're pleased to have a Zaporozhets parked in front of their door here in Germany.
Only here did I realize Irina has such a passion for these cars. But for me, it makes for a great connection.
And it all began here in Berlin at the German Zaporozhets fan club. For close to 20 years, its members have driven their cars to Ukraine to cultivate friendships with other fans in the Zapo's homeland. One of the main organizers is Ronnie Maya. He got to know the Zapo early on while growing up in East Germany. My heart and soul's in here, and I've been obsessed with it since birth. Then came the big turning point in my life, namely the day my father scrapped his Zapo. April 15th, 1992. I remember it all too well. I cried my eyes out at the time. And that did something to me. Ever since, everything here at home has revolved around the Zapos. Ronnie's converted his garage in a courtyard in Berlin's Treptow district into a shrine for Ukrainian cars. Here, Zaporozhets are repaired, displayed, and venerated. Every car is such an individual with a story to tell. The first Zaporozhets model to roll off the assembly line was the ZAZ 965. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev had issued the order to develop a cheap car that would give mobility to the country's masses. As a production location, he chose the ZAZ factory in Zaporizhzhia, which had produced the first Soviet tractors in 1923 and the first Soviet combine harvesters in 1930, proving its technical know-how. But Zaz's breakthrough in automobile production first came with the successors to the 965. Between 1966 and 1994, close to 3 million Zaz 966s and 968s were built in Zaporizhzhia. The Zapo's innovative technology caught people's attention.
It's clearly a car which was designed only by engineers and not by accountants. The engineers designed it, and no one came in and said, "This will cost too much. I want you to make this more ordinary, more normal." It's a really basic economy car with a low price tag, but really expensively made.
The air-cooled rear engine, which some joked was designed as a starter motor for Soviet tanks, boasts unusual features. For instance, an oil bath air filter. Mounted on top of the magnesium alloy V4, the filter never needs changing, only cleaning. It has no oil filter either. Down here there's an oil centrifuge, which filters out all the particles more or less through centrifugal force. During an oil change, you just clean it and put it back on. There's no oil filter or air filter to throw away, so it's quite sustainable.
The car itself is a very basic box, but inside this basic box is a lot of quite sophisticated engineering.
The German Zaporozhets Club's website has some curious photos in its archive. At the G8 summit in St. Petersburg in 2006, host Vladimir Putin proudly showed U.S. President George W. Bush his favorite car. The Zaporozhets was Putin's very first car, a gift from his mother, who'd won it in a lottery.
Maybe he had a good one. Maybe he had a really good one, a new one that worked nicely. I think the older ones were generally better built than the later ones. And it's quite clear that on the earlier model, the bodywork is much better. It's quite clear that by 1991, all the machines that made the bodywork were completely worn out.
Some cars were poorly made. That was always so, but those were the Soviet standards of the time. Increasingly, the Ukrainian engineers' clever technical innovations were compromised by the constraints of the Soviet Union's planned economy. Designed and constructed amid political tensions, the Zaporozhets still triggers controversial discussions today.
Both cars took part in the Parade of Cultures in Frankfurt. I made a license plate that says, "Made in Ukraine." Then a few Russians griped, "That's not a Ukrainian car, it's a Soviet car." And then I asked, "What does Soviet mean?"
Still, the Zaporozhets managed to transcend all national boundaries. It wasn't just a standard feature in films made in the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 70s. It had a big part in the American film Blind Wedding, too. And 007 taking a spin in one in GoldenEye might account for the Zapo's popularity in Britain today.
After you.
The car enjoys quite a cult following there.
1970, the Zaz brand has always intrigued me, and the history of it and the engineering behind it was really what captured my interest to buy and own one.
It's a very, very basic car, but it drives. It goes around corners and it floats over bad surfaces like a much, much more expensive car. It has the ride of a Rolls Royce and the handling of a little baby Porsche.
A sports car feeling generated by a rear-mounted engine with just 40 horsepower. Yeah, what's it like to drive? It's unlike any other car you've ever known. The charm of it all. The V4 engine in the back is simply... it's simply one of a kind.
ist einfach einmalig.
The Zapo is also an all-terrain vehicle. After all, it was designed in the Soviet Union to assist Siberian farmers with their agricultural labor. I know from old stories that my father got through terrain with his Zapo that my grandpa couldn't with his Moskvich. Welcome to the most nostalgic SUV there is.
Herzlich willkommen im nostalgischsten SUV, den es gibt.
The Zaporozhets is a jack of all trades, capable of handling any terrain. The car's construction is pretty much an original creation, so there's nothing that's been adapted from other vehicles. Otherwise, the body is a lot like the NSU Princes. They look quite similar.
Like all manufacturers, Soviet manufacturers looked at Western cars, but in no way was the Zapo a copy of anything else. The Zapo and the NSU both derived their styling and their general layout from the Chevrolet Corvair with the very high waistline that runs all around it. That is where this mistake comes that people say, oh, it's a copy of the NSU Prince. It absolutely isn't.
Robust Eastern Bloc technology packed in a chic body with a hint of Western styling. Members of the German Zaporozhets fan club regularly gather to go on excursions with their cars, like here in Berlin. It slows down the pace of life. There are a few technical assists, actually none at all. Not even a built-in radio. So when you drive through places on country roads, you take in much more of your surroundings. You don't just need to drive this car, you have to smell it and listen to it. Because as soon as there's a strange smell, you know something's going to happen. It's small and cute. I'm small too, so it suits us somehow. The group formed through this car has led to such great friendships. Before the war, the German fan club members also made several trips to Ukraine to learn more about the car's origins. Together with Ukrainian Zaporozhets owners, they formed a convoy and toured the Eastern European country. Back then, you could also build cultural bridges or forge relationships with the Zapo, I'd say, because Ukrainians would notice, oh, they're interested in our culture. And when you picture that war is raging in the regions where we were driving through forests with the Zapo, of course, that's not a pretty picture. Irina Denise shows us how, time and again, she's set off for Ukraine in her Zapo, laden with relief supplies, ever since the Russian invasion began.
The Zapo's a symbol of resistance.
Dreams can't be killed. That's the motto of a group of Ukrainians who are taking part in the Monte Carlo historic rally with their Zaporozhets, even while their country is at war. Renata Vilchinskaita has also driven from Kyiv to Monte Carlo and back.
The first time when the global war in Ukraine has begun, we wanted to make an even stronger statement about ourselves. We wanted to make a manifest to declare that we are alive and we will participate in European global rallies.
After starting off from Kyiv, Renata first had to navigate her Zaporozhets through a war zone for hundreds of kilometers.
It's not a problem to travel by Ukraine by car. We have shelters, and when the alarm starts, we go to shelter. For us, rally is not just a sport; it's a kind of respite from the constant threats of war and air raid.
Then, after a challenging 3,000-kilometer journey through Europe, she finally reached the finish line at Monaco's Port Hercules.
405 стартовый номер.
It was an uplifting moment, but Renata and her friends didn't spend much time at the post-rally celebrations.
We were tired en route, and we just want to go home after rally. And I always want to go home after rally because it's my homeland and here is my family and I want to stay in Kyiv.
The two Ukrainian women who now live with Irina in Germany can no longer go home to Ukraine because their livelihoods there have been destroyed. But at least the Zapo in front of their door provides a sense of home away from home.
I didn't know anything about Irina's hobby and was very surprised when I saw the Zapos here. But for me, it's a really great feeling.
Irina picked the two women up from Lviv, where they were stranded after making a dramatic escape from Kyiv. Airstrikes have destroyed almost all the infrastructure of their home city near the Russian border.
It's not so easy. Leaving my homeland was very hard for me. But my husband was wounded right at the start of the war and was admitted to hospital. Then I had to leave my bombed-out house. It was all pretty awful for me.
In times like these, Irina tries to help however she can.
People are scared. It's so sad. For many people, only money matters, not freedom or justice. Trump is the worst. He shows and says that money is everything. My greatest fear is that for everyone, for all of Europe, money will become more important than laws, than morality.
Kristina Traktirova from Moscow is also passionate about the Zaporozhets. She likes to strike a pose in front of these vehicles as well. Just like her great role model did with American cars.
A gal who's always a real lady. That finesse. Yes, Marilyn Monroe has always been an incredible inspiration to me. Not that I want to be exactly like her. I just like the way she presents herself.
The Russian social media star appears in the documentary The Cars We Drove into Capitalism. The film's Bulgarian directors Boris Masirkov and Georgy Bogdanov look at car culture under communism. They show how people from the Eastern Bloc were devoted to their cars, and still are. Kristina chooses traditional Russian clothes to wear at her photo shoots.
It's Soviet-made, with a typical pattern that was very popular back then.
This young girl, she's very much representative of this phenomenon that we found in Russia. Which is very funny for us to have this pin-up American culture transposed onto Soviet cars.
The directors shot the film before the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. But to this day, Kristina regularly posts her Zaporozhets pictures on Instagram and various Russian social media channels.
I think all this obsession with socialist cars in Russia is a way to maybe to express something like "Make Russia Great Again." Like, let's bring back the glamour and the glory of the Soviet times.
I am Ukrainian, and this is my car. I am Ukrainian, and this is my church. I am Ukrainian, and this is my bridge.
Caught up in an epic geopolitical struggle, Ukraine is desperately fighting to retain its independence.
I dream that this war will finally be over, and that people won't be wounded and killed every day. To put an end to the dying, we must finally win.
Freedom and independence are very expensive, and right now we pay a very big price to be free and to be independent. But I mean, to strengthen our economy and to make it stronger, we need automotive sector to have automotive sector more developed, and of course with new investments.
Ukraine's Ministry of Economy recognizes that the auto industry will be a key factor in the country's economic future. So the government is supporting the sector with a variety of subsidies, tax breaks, and tariff relief.
Automotive industry is a strategically important sector for Ukraine. So we have a set of tools we can propose to the investors and our own producers, because we just have no other way. And that's why we need to stand up every morning and do everything possible to move as fast as we can to better Ukraine, to be more effective.
Ukraine is working hard to bring back its auto industry's glory days, like the times when the Zaporozhets was being built here.
Zaporozhets model was like a symbol of Ukrainian automotive industry during Soviet times, and we really do hope that we will be back to the assembly of biggest world brands, and so step by step we will be back to having our own national model.
Ukraine's car industry fell on hard times after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. In 1994, production of the Zaporozhets ceased for good. From then on, the ZAZ factory in Zaporizhzhia was used to assemble licensed models from other manufacturers and to produce buses.
And in the former Soviet Union, Ukraine was considered to be the engineering heart of the Soviet Union. So we still have this kind of expertise available in the country. Finally, we have several automotive plants still available. So yes, I would say yes, there is a chance for Ukrainian comeback. Even today, during this war, there are certain startups in Ukraine which are trying to produce cars from scratch.
On the internet, some of these Ukrainian startups are presenting their visions for electric cars. They range from luxurious sports sedans to small cars which are clearly modeled on the Zaporozhets, projects still waiting to be transformed into reality.
Here we need some investment and support from the state to move further with these projects. Talking about future of electric automobile industry in Ukraine, it's very important to say that we are having one of the biggest deposits of lithium. We want to establish the production of batteries here, and so we can produce car batteries for all European producers here. And so, for example, German corporations can assemble automobile batteries here.
In Western Ukraine, Eurocar has been producing Volkswagen Group models for over 2 decades, and suppliers in Ukraine manufacture many components used by the German auto industry. Germany and Ukraine have close ties, so the German government is now covering many war-related losses suffered by German investors in Ukraine.
There's a lot of potential in cooperation, and there are a lot of also Ukrainian companies that I think might be able to help the German industry to be more innovative, to be more forward-looking.
The fate of Ukraine's auto industry, or even a revival of the legendary Zaporozhets, all depend on the outcome of the war and geopolitical developments. Yet Ukraine's automakers, like Eurocar, look to the future with unshakable optimism.
I live in the country at war. If I'm pessimistic, I should, go and die. No, we will not die. We will survive. We see the bright future for our country. I see the sun, but we have a gray sky today. I want to see the sun, and I will find the sun. I will do everything I can in order to change the situation around me.
The Zaporozhets, Putin's favorite car, has now become a symbol of Ukrainian resilience and resistance against Russia. It's a car like no other. The Zaporozhets has a legendary past, but does it also have a future? And what lies ahead for Ukraine's auto industry? What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Hey, hey!